Hello, I'm Fliss Bennée, and for the last 2 years, I've been advising the Welsh Government on science for COVID, attending SAGE and generally trying to do 6 impossible things before breakfast. Now, when Ben and I did this before, we were in front of a live audience, and it was much easier to say that, as you can see, I looked a lot different pre-COVID. Trust me, I'm larger now than I was then. Anyway, I've been in and out of data and digital as a civil servant. My career working on open standards, on complex data. I've been helping the government put user needs first. All the stuff that's quite foundation level, but it takes time for a big organization to learn. And frankly, it's still going to take thousands of us working together constantly in a lot of different places to make lasting changes to something as large as a government. But in late 2019, I took a role in the Welsh Government. I was just starting to help really shake up the NHS digital agenda in Wales when suddenly COVID came over the horizon and boom. But in fact, the reason I met Ben in the first place was that Armakuni were working with the Welsh NHS too.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben Dodd. I'm a co-founder of Armakuni. I spend my time helping the Flisses of this world, people that want to deliver at pace, build out an engineering and data future. Day-to-day, I work with governments, with global energy and financial services organizations. And what I'm most proud of is over the 10 years, Armakuni have built out this amazing team of 60 engineers and consultants. And it's really this crack team of engineering first responders that I'm representing in this story. And that is the foundation for this story. Great people doing an amazing thing in an emergency. For my part, from my time working as a designer and a developer, and a change agent in these really large, complex organizations, I brought my ever-growing list of ways not to create a light bulb, and to be fair, a pretty good list of ways that you can. I also spent a lot of the pandemic developing a worrying photographic equipment habit, and that's why there's an overly dramatic self-portrait of me on the conference website, and this photo, and if you look very carefully, you'll notice I'm trying a misguided attempt at a sort of a tweed Steve Jobs, wearing the same outfit in every opportunity.
Good man. But we're going to tell you a little bit about our story, which is how a very small group of people in a small country in the middle of an emergency was able to share our data our way and make a difference. And I'm not going to bore you with the maths. I'm not going to talk about the R number, which all of you are sick of by now. But I think there are some things that can be applied to your own situations. And firstly, one of the reasons is I say it's a small country, but we shouldn't forget that it is literally the size of Wales, which I think of as the unofficial scientific unit for area. We often talk about pieces of the Amazon, such as this area the size of Wales, when we talk about deforestation. My own personal favourite iceberg A68, was described as a quarter of the size of where everyone should have a favourite iceberg. It's handy as a comparator because it helps people put things into perspective. This is a quarter of Wales, which technically means Wales is 4 icebergs large, if we flip it around. But Wales has 5% of the population of the UK, but it is just less than a tenth of the size. We've got 20,770 square kilometres, which, as far as the internet knows, is 14 million rugby pitches. It's my preferred shape of ball. I don't know about you, but it just works. So we don't have the size, we don't have the economic power of bigger countries. We have to innovate a lot. And it also means we put a great deal more stock in the strength of our relationships. What does that mean? Well, when COVID came, we had to start giving science advice. And I wanted to make sure we could be open and transparent right from the beginning, to explain as much as possible to as many people as possible. So at the beginning, right from the start, we asked ministers for permission to share our independent scientific advice and evidence with the public. At the heart of it all, that what seems to have resonated with people. These pages are still live. You can go to them and find our work. In Wales, we've talked about the good and the bad things that are happening without fear or favour. We're just trying to help people understand what it means for them. And I hope that's part of the reason why trust in Welsh Government decisions and in our science advice seems to have remained relatively high over the last 2 years. At the beginning, our data was a total mess, though. I mean, it was mostly all there somewhere out in the system. It was going from A to B, but we'd never tested how long it would take to get access to the data sets. We didn't have any agreements in place to cover emergencies, and so we couldn't get what we needed in order to see what was happening. We knew we needed to see how fast the infection was reproducing. So from the first day, I had my very sole team member literally phoning around every one of the intensive care units in Wales every day, just to ask for the count of people in there who might have COVID, so we could work out how fast the exponential growth was. My minimum viable product was a spreadsheet and a phone. And I knew that this information was lagging 3 weeks behind the end of the pandemic. There was no mass testing yet. So we set out to identify what information there might be that would get us closer to the leading edge of the infection, so we could actually make a difference. It was pretty chaotic. And the only thing that held back that panic was the offers of help that came in. There were plenty of snake oil on offer, but groups like Google and Facebook opening up their anonymous travel information, King's College with the Zoe symptom tracker, Armakuni, they were all early volunteers. Public Health Wales was looking for outbreaks and sharing their information. We were iterating our operational and our academic models daily. I spent every day going from meeting to meeting on the phone, then on video, briefing people with slides that I knew were going to be going out of date literally as I was explaining them. And I had no spare people and no space to think. When I had to spend all of my time interpreting data with ministers and NHS boards, first responders, I couldn't do the analysis and the building on my own.
So from my perspective and from Armakuni's, being given this challenge was a great call to arms. The pandemic was an extreme version of a challenge that all organizations face eventually, and it's a challenge that my team have been facing again and again over the last 10 years. And Welsh Government, like everyone, had to respond to a fundamental change in the customer